How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Go Forward Show, broadcasting to you live here from NRB in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. We've got a great author to take you through a little bit of his book and why he wrote it and some of the themes therein. Keith Spurgin is the author of Unknown: Finding Connection in a Disconnected World. Keith, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here, Dylan. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure is all mine. So tell me a little bit about what was the burning desire inside of you that you had to unleash this book on the world?
You know, when I was 34, I started, just a couple of years ago,
Of course.
I started a church, and it took off, just kind of exploded. And
Yeah.
we were doing great, and lots of cool things were happening. People's lives were being changed. I had people from around the world calling me saying, hey, how do I build momentum? How do I build teams? I was like, man, I made it. I'm doing it,
Go.
And then a few years into that, my wife looked at me one day, and we had done this together. The whole family was in and all that. And she looked at me one day and she's like, I feel like you have a mistress. And I was like, It is the last. I mean, and she didn't mean it literally,
Right.
But
yeah, you
but
have.
she was like,
you
got
have
so much going on, and
Yeah.
so many people you're connecting with, and I feel like I'm getting like the leftovers.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny to talk about it now, but at the time, man, it was devastating.
I can imagine.
Because she was just broken.
Yeah, you never want to hear that from your wife or your kids. Even when
Exactly.
you're doing good things. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a completely foreign concept to pastors, and I think it's just based on the type of people who become pastors. They want to pour into everybody, and sometimes they do that at the detriment of themselves, and sometimes that just can't help but trickle down to your family by association.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and so it was one of those times where you're just like, oh my gosh, I got to make some serious changes, and it was a multi-year process. It wasn't like, boom, okay.
Can't just unwind all that.
And part of what was so hard was, if anybody would have asked me, they would have said, hey, who's the most important human in your life? I would have been like, oh, my wife, Susan.
Easy.
Whoops.
We're good.
And
Reinforcements.
there we go.
There we go.
And so I realized, how other people perceive me, that really has to be the measure of how they're experiencing me rather than my perspective. Because I'm thinking, I'm doing all the right things, I'm there for you. I come home for dinner at night, I tell you I love you. I'm coaching our kids in ball, but how I perceive it is not the measure. It's how the other person perceives it.
Yep.
And so I had to just make some huge, and also I was trying to help people find connection with God and other people and find community and all these things. And I realized, man, I'm not even doing that well in my own home. What the heck am I doing? I got to really reevaluate here.
Yeah.
So we took some time. We took about 3 months away for some sabbatical space, and that really helped us.
I can imagine. Yeah.
We had some mentors speaking into our lives and coaches, and so over the next few years, we really got reestablished and reconnected and known again.
So would you say this is a marriage book?
There's marriage elements in it, but it's really for any kind of relationship.
I love
like
that.
even if you're a leader, the relationships with your
With
team,
teammates.
friendships, relationships at work, whatever. It's really going to cover that whole gamut.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll admit I've been a bit of a church hopper, since moving to San Diego 10 years ago. In LA, it was easy to find a church because there wasn't that many of them that were any good. But when you move to San Diego, there's one on every corner,
Okay.
like 7-Elevens.
Yeah.
We've had problems, finding community and connecting. Maybe we're just, that typical millennials that spend too much time on career and family and being online and not enough being in community. But what do you think is the number one thing that people are doing wrong that feel like they, can't find community?
I don't know that it's doing wrong, but it's just, I think one of the scenarios that happens is what I talk about this in the book, is what I call the relational pain cycle. And so, you start a new relationship and it's like, okay, this is great. We're connecting. We've got some commonalities, we got some common interests, and we start building something. And then all of a sudden, something happens. We have a conflict.
Yep.
We have a disagreement, which, by the way, in our culture, our broader culture today, a disagreement means I'm done with you.
Yeah, it's like a cardinal sin, right?
It's like,
yeah.
what?
I know. I think I probably bring that in from my family dynamic, because I see my dad and my stepmom will have these great friendships. They're like going on trips around the world, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, those people like said something, that irritated us at Thanksgiving, and they're dead to us now. It's like, what?
It's like, what? Yeah. And what it is we hit pain.
Yep.
And that's going to happen in every human relationship in your life, because we're all broken people. So part of it is just recognizing that.
Yeah.
Is like, oh, I'm broken and you're broken, so we're going to have...
Our nature is sinful, and
Yeah.
we're going to eventually come in
Yeah.
contact with somebody, and we're going to act out of ego at some point. It's
Exactly.
inevitable. Yeah. 'Cause
And we're going to have moments where it hurts, or we get angry, or whatever it is. And then what are you going to do with that? Well, what most people do is they back off. They isolate.
Yeah.
And so then the thinking goes like this. Well, if I back off, if I isolate, then I won't get hurt anymore. But we're hardwired for connection as humans. Brene Brown has this great quote. I love it. She says, we are hardwired for connection, and without it, there is suffering.
Yep.
And I'm like,
it's powerful.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we back off, we isolate, we build little walls, and then we're like, man, now I'm feeling pain because I don't have connection with anybody. And it's like, why don't I? Well, because you got these walls up. That's why. So then we try again.
Yeah.
So we enter the cycle.
Sounds like we're having a life coaching session for Dylan. Unfortunately, no longer a podcast interview.
But it's what happens.
Totally.
And so then we hit pain again. Now we're hurt again. We isolate again. We start a new relationship. And now, last year Megan was my best friend. This year Mark's my best friend, but not really.
Yeah, because it's
I'm,
surface level.
I'm not in as much as I was before because I got these walls up.
Yeah.
So it's just a perpetual cycle.
Yeah, totally.
Until we do something different.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's a lot of what the book is about.
So what's the key to doing it different then? So is there, I imagine there's some strategies around, hey, conflict isn't something to run through. You got to lean into it, right? You got to actually have real conversations, and from having those trust-based conversations, and, actually modeling what Jesus asked us to do, which is love our neighbors. And that's where real relationships are built, because you actually break through some of that conflict. Is that kind of the idea?
Absolutely. But when Jesus defined who your neighbor was, he used the Good Samaritan as the story, who was the absolute political and religious enemy of the people he was talking to. The person that they would have most disagreed with, he said, that's your neighbor.
Wow. Yeah.
And so it's like, what are we doing? If we disagree, that means we should draw in closer.
Interesting.
That means we should love better and love more. But our natural tendency as humans is to back away, which makes sense rationally. You touch a hot stove and burn your hand. Of course, you're not going to touch a hot stove anymore. But that doesn't work in relationships because we're made for connection. So when you back away, you're doing the opposite of your design. John Bevere has this great illustration where he talks about, if you take a new tree and you plant it and let it start growing, and then you pull it up and replant it, it'll make it. It'll survive because trees are resilient.
Yep.
So are we as humans. But if you keep doing that, replanting, it will never reach maturity. It'll never reach its full potential of who it was designed to be. And that same thing is true for us as humans. When we keep replanting relationally, whether jumping from one church to another, or this job, this relationship, that relationship, the problem with all those changes is you go with you.
Yeah, wherever you go, there you are, as they say, right?
You can't run from you. And so the thing is we have to look inside rather than outside to say, okay, what do I need? What is going on with me that needs to change so that I can grow up and mature in these relationships that are difficult to become the person I need to become.
Yeah. Is there, do you think there's a generational element? I think about me and my wife's family. My grandparents were matriarchs, took care of the family, but they didn't have any friends outside of the family. It was just like the family was sacrosanct and, spent a lot of time as a family unit, but they had no friends outside of the family. I look at my wife's family. She had an uncle who had seizures, and because they were very social, but when they had that child who had seizures back then, seizures was like, you send those people to the institution.
You send them away.
And they didn't do that. Yeah. So they were kind of ostracized by their community. And I've seen that in my parents and her parents, and then maybe down to us. Do you think is there something, they talk about generational sin and generational trauma. Do you think this idea of relationality can be passed from generation to generation?
Yeah.
It's something that you need to break in your family.
100%. 100%. But the reality is each generation has its own version of this. I actually break this down in the book, but you think about boomers. They are some of the most look good on the outside, appear awesome, but then there's all this broken inside we're not going to talk about or deal with, which creates distance in relationships, and then you got Gen Xers who were the first cohort to be left home alone. Gen Xers are really okay with not being super connected. And I mean, not everybody is, but in general.
As a generation.
And of course, then you got millennials, and that's a whole thing where millennials are super in touch with what's going on around the world. World issues, political issues, all the things, but then so many millennials struggle. In fact, more than half of millennials say they feel isolated relationally.
That's right.
And then Gen Zers, there's a whole thing there where they're very collaborative at work, but then they don't want to be around you after that. So there's just, we all and that's a broad generalization.
Of course, but these generalizations and these categorizations, they're general because they're true in most cases, right? Of course, there are outliers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your process as an author, because we're here at NRB. This is the culinary event each year where the top minds in creativity and filmmaking and broadcasting and music from the perspective of a Christian worldview come together to talk about the best in class on storytelling and communicating messages to mass media, through mass media. As an author, one of the biggest themes this week will be AI and the democratization of content creation. The democratization of getting your story out and being able to tell stories and communicate the gospel, but through direct ministry and or storytelling. As an author, how did you leverage AI, if at all, as part of your creative process? Do you see it as an important component of communications as a newly minted author with your first book?
Well, I think it certainly can be. It's like everything. There's the upside and the downside, and
you gotta look at
the good and the bad, and all of that. I think if you're just putting a concept into AI and saying, write the book for me, I think that's a problem.
I think I got sent one of those the other day. It's like this thick, and I started flipping through it, and almost looked like code or something. I'm like, I'm going to read 2 pages of this, and if I think AI wrote it, I'm going to throw it in the trash can.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so for me, it's like, I think we got to come up with our own stuff, but then I think AI can be super helpful. Like, for example, I've got questions at the end of each chapter, and I put the chapter in and asked for some help with questions, to help people think through things. I think that's awesome. That's super helpful. And, but I think when we lean on AI to create the content
versus being a sounding board or creative,
that's where we get in trouble.
I think that's probably smart.
It's just not. But as far as it can be so helpful for making it better, And sometimes, honestly, it's easier to get feedback from AI than it is from a human.
There we go. Isolating and taking the easy way out versus being vulnerable and giving our unfinished product to humans to give us real critiques.
But honestly, just a lot of times I run stuff through AI and I'm like, I don't really like that. I like what I already did better, and whether everybody else would or not, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, but I think it can be super helpful as a tool. And I think that's the way we need to look at it. Like I always tell people in church world, I'm like, hey, your building is not the church.
Yeah.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
The property's a tool.
Yeah.
The technology's a tool. AI is a tool. It's not the way forward. It's not what this is all about. So
that's a great point. All right. So, most things in creativity in the world, whether it's, music or movies or TV shows or podcast series or lectures or tours, a lot of them start with books.
Yeah.
Is this the end of a journey or the beginning of a journey for you?
This is definitely the beginning.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the plan next?
Yeah, I'm working toward launching a podcast later this year.
Amazing.
So I may pick your brain to get
100%.
some ideas and thoughts.
I would love to. I have many thoughts on the matter.
Oh, good.
It's interesting. People often will come up to me and they will say, Dylan, I think you've been doing this since 2017. I think it's too late for me. But what I always tell people is, you don't do podcasts for numbers. I'm blessed that I've achieved numbers over time. 2017, 278 episodes later, who's counting? But at the end of the day, if you are receiving, if it fills you up, if it fills your cup up, and you enjoy exciting conversations and meeting new people, and I've interviewed Beyonce's dad. I've interviewed, and I've got to talk to Beyonce's dad about fatherhood and how did he raise Beyonce and not become the Michael Jackson story, which it definitely could have gone in the
absolutely.
And get fathering advice, raising two daughters who are entering the entertainment industry as well. I gotta get advice from Beyonce's dad. That's an experience that I would have never had without having the podcast and having a platform and a reason to reach out and have that conversation. So I always tell people, don't worry about the result, worry about the process, and let the result be the byproduct of the process. And most of the time, people who take that approach they end up becoming successful because it is a grind. It's like we'll do 50 shows this week probably.
Wow.
But we'll have some amazing conversations. Some of them will go viral, some of them will get lots of views, some might not. But at the end of the day, we'll meet a lot of really cool people, and we'll have a lot of fun doing it. So,
that's awesome. I love it.
All right. Well, if folks, Keith, want to learn more about you or purchase the book or kind of get involved in your world as a Christian thought leader and minister, where would you like to send the audience to tune?
Yeah, I'd say to go to keithspurgin.net, keithspurgin.net, and you can find the book there. There's some blogs that I've written, other information if you want to get in touch with me or reach out, or speaking engagements or whatever.
Amazing.
Happy to do all that there. And the book also contains we've talked about the problems, but it contains a whole second section is about solutions.
Good. Yeah.
How do you actually build healthy relationships that last?
I love it. Well, if we're only gonna, give you the doom side, that would be very fun. So yes, no, I'm excited. If you guys couldn't tell, I've already self-diagnosed as someone who's facing these issues as a old 44-year-old millennial. So I'm gonna see if Keith will give me a free copy, and then I can take it home and read it on the plane.
No doubt.
So, appreciate it, sir.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Great time.
Bye-bye.